at the beginning of a session, when we get there, don't start talking about what happened on TV or something or whatever. You get the studio, so put the jug on, when we get going, and set the drums up. I've seen so many bands, they're hanging around, they're tweeting there, so on their mobile phones, they're sort of texting, having a cup of tea, and gradually sort of setting the drum kit up. But all of a sudden, if I went forward 12 hours, all of a sudden we're madly trying to get sort of guitar solos done at 11 o'clock at night time after working for 12 hours. So at the beginning of the day, you get in there, don't rush, just be cool about it, but get your stuff up there, get it set up, get tuned up, have a cup of coffee while you're setting your guitar up. Don't have a big chit chat about what happened the next day or the future day, what happened on TV last night. Get stuck into what you're doing. That's what you're paying for. Have that chat outside. If you want to have a chat about that, meet before the studio at a coffee shop, have a chat about your stuff, then go to the studio and bang. Because at that point, spending $100 an hour in the studio talking about what was on the movie last night, the Blues Brothers movie last night. It's a waste of time. When budgeting for time and money to record your songs, remember there is a big difference between recording an 8-minute gothic epic called The Struggle of Man Through the Ages, which has a 6-part vocal harmony middle section that makes Bohemian Rhapsody sound like Mary Had a Little Lamb, or B, a cover of a 2-minute Sex Pistols song. So if you've got two songs, you've got two Bohemian Rhapsodies, or you've got two God Save the Queens, that's going to take a huge difference in time in the studio. So, if you've got these big long songs, if you've got a big 7-minute song with 3 or 4 parts, you really got to treat that as 2 songs. If you've got a Ramones song, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 minutes or over, that's like half a song. That's quick. So therefore, what you've obviously got to do is you've got to compare apples with oranges. A Bohemian Rhapsody took a lot longer to record than a Ramones song. Just keep that in mind. If you're that style of band, like Dream Theater, your budget's going to be more. If you're like a Ramones sort of band, it's going to be a lot quicker, a lot cheaper. Here's some nice little do's and don'ts. Some don'ts. Don't spend 1 hour recording and 14 hours mixing. That's really, really important. Don't spend 14 hours recording and 1 hour mixing. Let's do that again. Don't spend 1 hour recording. Don't think that you can go in and record a song and go, oh, it's going to be rough, but I'll fix it in the mix. What I find now that I'm more experienced and older, or my older and more experienced, I'm one of the two, I find that I'm spending less time fixing things in the mix, because as time goes on, I'll get better at getting sounds, because I've done it like a million times, so I know what microphone works on what drums and amps or whatever, so I get the sounds pretty quickly. And if it doesn't sound right, I fix it there and then. I'm just getting better at that as time goes on. So what I find when I'm in the mix, I've usually got not much problems. Usually got one little problem, half a problem, but not much. The mix just goes bang. It's great. So don't sort of rush the recording and go, it's okay, I'll fix the mix. You're better off doing things properly. If it doesn't sound right when you're recording it, do it again, because it ain't going to get better. So you're better off doing it right. That's going to take another 3 or 4 minutes, rather than spending, the whole Pro Tools thing, like I often have drummers, I just missed that last week, you do Pro Tools. And I go, well, I can, but it's a 2-minute song. Why don't you just do the song again for 2 minutes to get it right, and then we're not spending a quarter of an hour on Pro Tools fixing it up. Just one of those sort of things. And the other thing is, don't spend 14 hours recording and 1 hour mixing. So I heard something the other day where I could tell all the recording sounds are quite good, but the mix was obviously rushed. Bit of a shame. So you've got to, 50-50. The other important thing is, don't start drinking beer at 11 AM and expect to be boogieing at midnight. Doesn't happen, man. I like a beer as much as the next bloke, unless the next bloke is Mel Gibson. But basically, got to wait till the evening, wait till the afternoon, the evening to have a bit of a beer. Keep the daytime straight. Otherwise, it's all fun when you're having a beer at midday and 2 or 3 in the afternoon. But man, by 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock of night time, you just want to go home. You're not putting out. Even by 7 or 8 o'clock of night time, you'll be sort of falling behind. So contain yourself, self-discipline. And the next day may have as many beers as you like. The next day, when you get up and listen to the song, you go, that's fantastic. You won't have to do it again, because you've had a beer at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Discipline. Another similar thing, don't spend $10,000 on a 2-track demo for a local pub, and don't spend $200 for a demo for someone who's really interested in you with Sony or MCA or something like that. So don't spend a heap of money for a simple demo that's going to sort of kill the band and be that fussy. Just get in and do a good recording. But also, if you have a good opportunity, spend a bit of time in the studio. Like, it's a good investment. Like, make sure at the end of the day, when you give it to the bloke at Sony or whatever, it sounds good, sounds impressive. He will expect it not to sound like Bohemian Rhapsody. I'll use that example again. But he expects it to sound nice and solid with all the right things in the right place. So spend your money on that. But the other thing is also try and find a studio that if you've got a studio that the guy on the mixing desk was brought up with Pet Shop Boys, and you're a band that sounds like BB King, it's not going to work. Also, if your band sort of sounds like Metallica, and you go in for a guy who's only recorded opera singers on piano, that's not going to work so good either. So basically, try and get to a studio that you know works in that sort of style of music. With me, I got the studio. I got 3 or 4 different engineers, but the stuff that I do is generally live bands, bluesy, rootsy sort of rocking bands. I do quite a lot of death metal, heavy metal, but so basically guitar and drum bands, nice and loud and pretty sort of pretty sort of full on, lots of drums and guitars. That's what I'm known for. That's what I probably do best, because that's basically what's in my record collection. Doesn't mean I can't do jazz, but maybe sort of opera singing with piano players is not my forte. Maybe sort of full on Miles Davis jazz singing is not my forte either. So go to a studio that does that style of music that your band does. Also, when you go to a studio, it's always best to talk to the guy you're going to work with, because the guy in the studio, let's say you're working with Jordan, my engineer Jordan. If you come and talk to me, you might hate me because I might be a real clown, but you might like Jordan. On the other hand, you might hate Jordan, you might like me, you might get on with me fantastic. All of a sudden you do the session with Jordan, everybody goes, this guy's a jerk. So it's always important for the band to meet the guy you're going to do with. I mean, have a chat to the boss too, because you've got to, if the studio feels good, the boss feels good, and the bloke you're going to work with, so feels good, well then that's great. If you don't get a good vibe with the studio, it's not going to get better. So just have a chat with them, but have a chat to the main person, and also try and have a listen to what they've done. So listen, we're a band, we still sound like Creed or something, or sound like Korn. What have we got in that sort of style? Try and make sure, okay, if your thing is, okay, we got $500, we got $1,000, whatever. Try and make sure that he doesn't play you like a $30,000 or $40,000 CD to compare what that's going to sound like for your $500 2-track demo. So make sure you can play some demos. There's no point in comparing a $40,000 to $100,000 CD to your 2-track demo. So just get a bit of a balance there. The main thing is, the other thing is also finding a studio, which is not quite in that area, but it's difficult. Like basically, you normally get a vibe for the studio. You walk in there, if it's pristine and looks untouched, it means the guy's not working much. So I'm not quite sure about that. If the place is a total mess, bit of worry. I know when I took over this studio, like you couldn't basically walk through the place because the guy had all his old gear for 1945 on the sides. You couldn't set up a drum kit in there. Now if you look through, it's I've got a drum kit in there, but you can actually sort of see yourself walk through, which is great. So basically, get a studio that feels good, looks like it's doing business, and looks like it does a thing. So you can normally tell when you walk into a restaurant if the place is happening, or if something smells a bit weird or something is a bit weird, you go, oh, I'm not quite sure about this. Same thing with the recording studio. Just go in there, get the vibe, but basically have a chat to the guy, and the guy starts talking about sort of, oh, we've got a 6 dB sort of headroom here with the flanging of the esophagus, blah blah. Starts sort of using all these fancy terms. Run out straight away, just out the front door. Because there's nothing worse than talking to a guy or dealing with a guy who just quotes all these figures. You say, mate, I want a good guitar sound, I want a good vocal sound, a good drum sound, a good mix. Simple. So he starts talking facts and figures and this and dB cuts and floor noises. I don't even know what that means. So if he starts talking that sort of stuff, get out. You need a guy that's going to talk to you in your language and normal language. He needs to know all that sort of stuff, but he doesn't need to tell you about the stuff. You're the band, you don't want to know about noise floors. You want to know about just getting the songs together and getting it sounding good, and that's it. All right, best of luck. Bullet points of recording. See you later.